All right, we're live.
All right, everyone, welcome back. A little after 1 p.m. On Wednesday, the 20th of May. We got a slug of stuff to work on for the next hour or so. So we are going to start off with, we wanted to get some insight from the CCB. So we have Gabe Gilman with us to run through a couple of the questions that we had. Sir, please feel free to join us. Apologies for the ambient noise in the background there. Prefer. All right. So it seems the larger bucket of questions, if I recall correctly, was in and around the sections that were addressed in Ways and Means. And so with that, those are the parts we wanted to touch on more specifically, unless somebody else recalls differently.
If I can just ask, we should be on amendment draft 2.1 or are we on 1.2?
2 point.
1.1.
Hold on.
Yeah,
That's not too much on that.
Thank you. Yes, we should be working off 2.1. Really does add some background noise.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll do It's being posted right now. Yep. Well, he'll let us know when to refresh. It just appeared.
yep.
I can't get my screen to load. Two point one. Thank you all. All right. All right, you, sir.
Okay, so would you like me to just start from the top real quickly and focus on what was adjusted in the news?
Yes.
Happy to do that. So for the record, my name is Gabe Gilman. I'm General Counsel of the Cannabis Control Board. Your usual James Pepper is tied up today, so thank you for tolerating me. Here to give you a quick run through of the current S278. The first section at this point has been stricken. That section proposed to double the allowable package maximum. It is no longer part of the bill. The section on local government, I understand, was a concern. It's a little bit unexpectedly to us, but what you've arrived at makes sense. We're really at this point leaving it alone, except for the technical updates that remove the now defunct references to the integrated license. It no longer exists. So
I actually want to play that. So council, who will be showing up at some point, found a couple of other instances where the integrated license language still needed to be removed.
okay,
So there's going to be a little bit more housekeeping coming on
that makes sense.
about that, because she found a few more spots where it still exists.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
I wanted to say that to the committee real quickly. Yes, Rebecca.
I was just looking at the difference between that and 1.1, and then what we just heard earlier. So there was a whole section that isn't addressed anymore about the 5% of the voters, and am I dreaming this?
My understanding is that section is removed and it's status quo for the section, except for those technical changes, removing the old license type.
Did that change between like 11:30 and now?
That didn't,
It didn't?
no, that was always part of the proposal that we reviewed earlier.
No, how did it change from the previous amendment?
You're talking about the one we talked about earlier?
Yeah,
It did not.
it didn't?
Fair point.
I think if I'm understanding you correctly, if we were to delete all of section 11, we wouldn't be incorporating the deletion of the integrated license,
Okay,
which has been deemed obsolete. So this new version of the amendment brings back section 11, but is only striking out instances where it references the license.
With the integrated license.
Integrated license. Versus if we just deleted section 11 entirely, we wouldn't be doing that housekeeping work that it's done throughout the entire rest of the bill.
okay,
So
okay, thank you.
so a brief, just to make sure we're all on the same page, I think. My understanding, which I think I'm pretty confident in, is there was originally a proposal in section 11 that would have made material changes to the law concerning municipal authority vis-a-vis cannabis establishments. It was decided against and removed, but then it was realized that the baby went with the bathwater and technical corrections were removed along with the substantive corrections. This just puts back the technical corrections without the substantive. So it effectively does not alter the section. I can say, you know, in terms of implementation on the ground at the board, this section has worked acceptably. I'm aware of a significant controversy in a single location, but across the state, it has generally been sufficient.
Yes, and the council is on their way right now and can speak to that as well when she arrives.
So turning to section 12A, there is new authority, which really shouldn't be new, but is. This mirrors exactly authority that was at the Agency of Agriculture for the enforcement of hemp-related administrative penalties. And this new subsection simply provides that the board may enforce a final administrative penalty by filing a civil collection action in the Superior Court. In the absence of that, it's not clear exactly how we would sort of get our money if there were a judgment against somebody they didn't want to pay. So that's the end of that. I think. Are there any questions, or would you like me to revisit other parts of the bill?
Boyd,
Can you talk about the fourth instance of removing the contingency of we're decreasing the fees and no longer appropriating money to make up for that cut towards the CCD?
Yeah, my understanding is that is, you know, the substantive change would be a significant reduction in the fees for outdoor cultivators. Originally, that was contingent upon an appropriation that would offset the lost revenue. And my understanding is that is gone now, but also that the effective date would be pushed out to 2027. So I think July 1, 2027 would take it, but it's not funded. That's accurate.
There's no concern from the CCD that the loss in revenue will affect the operations of.
It's really sort of a political choice. You know, we already have a delta between and not the happy kind of delta between our fee revenues and the operating expenses of the agency. The revenues don't support the operating expenses. That was sort of a conscious choice by the General Assembly at the beginning of the market, because I think there was a desire to make these licenses accessible to people who might not have means. Worked pretty well to do that, but it does mean that we have this gap. And it's really a question of political philosophy. Should those pay more? So obviously this grows that delta. It aggravates that problem if you see it as a problem. If you see it as a desired subsidy to keep these things accessible, I suppose that's, you might see it very differently. It is the case that outdoor cultivation is, it has less environmental impact. It yields less. You can get 4 cycles in an indoor grow. It's not as intensive. Outdoor is stuff in the sun at a pretty high latitude. So most outdoor cultivators are not generating huge profits.
no question. Hi, council. Perfect timing. Anything else, Mr. Gilman? Nope. Okay. I thank you, sir.
Okay, well, we thank you for the patience, Chair, you given this bill. It's been a long ride.
And so I'm gonna move over to council just to discuss the changes again. Rise from 1.1 to 2.1.
Does everyone have that? Sophie Zadatny for the Office of Legislative Counsel. So version 2.1 of the amendment is intended just to preserve the changes regarding integrated licenses. So if you remember, we had several sections in S278 that you did not amend that came over from the Senate that were just correcting the statutes to take out references to integrated licenses. And there were 5 references to integrated licenses in that section 11 that you're looking to delete. And I just wanted to make sure that for purposes of the statute that we weren't losing the correction of removing the reference to integrated licenses. So it's just to make sure, along with those other sections that talk about integrated licenses, that they're incorporated into this amendment.
Any questions for council on that one? So, my understanding is this, if we take a position on this now and it's favorable, we did the same with Rep. Nugent's proposal of amendment that the language would be inserted in appropriations, thereby avoiding floor amendments and stuff like that. So we keep it a little cleaner. That's just sort of a process awareness for folks. So, with that, any other discussion or comments on the proposal of amendment draft 2.1? Nope. All right, so everybody good to take a position on this? All right, I'll call for favorable thumbs. That is a 10-0-1. Awesome. Cool. Thank you, council. Thank you, committee. Thank you, stakeholders. All right, up next. We have a proposal of amendment on S64, an act relating to amendments to the scope of practice for optometrists. And we have. Hi, council.
See that amendment somewhere?
It's posted on our page.
That's passed by second.
2 minutes to look it over first.
Well, let's run through it with council and then we'll take some time.
Lisa's doing, let's do it.
One was just passed by second.
If you're legislating.
No,
You got a good look? I sent it to your legislative email.
what's that, email? Oh,
Okay.
It's also on the page.
Get it on. Because that's passed by second.
Right, it's not, I don't think it's,
okay.
now it's up.
There we go. All right. The table is yours.
Right, great. Good afternoon, Jen Carvey from the Office of Legislative Counsel. So I will walk through this proposal from Representative Stone. This is on S64, which is an act relating to the scope of practice for amendments to the scope of practice for optometrists. All of the potential changes are highlighted. We can look at them. So starting out in section 1 in the definitions section, in the definition of practice of optometry for someone holding an advanced therapeutic procedure specialty, it would remove the laser procedures and just go directly from surgery to injections. So those are the first changes. Section 2, and you'll see this as a theme throughout. This is putting the scope of, or the oversight of the Advanced Therapeutic Procedures Specialty under the Board of Medical Practice. So for the renewal, that talks about the additional 5 hours of continuing education approved by the Board of Medical Practice in the Advanced Procedures. Section 3, the prohibited practices, again, removing the reference to lasers. But these are the prohibited practices. And so it is adding those 3 that were taken out of the scope of practice in the first section to this list and putting in the and. And then in section 4, we get the creation of the specialty itself. And so this has the individual apply to the Board of Medical Practice for an advanced therapeutic procedures specialty that would authorize them to perform advanced procedures in accordance with a practice agreement between the optometrist and an ophthalmologist. And we'll get to that in a little bit as well. For qualifications, has the Board of Medical Practice in consultation with the Board of Optometry granting the advanced therapeutic procedure specialty to an applicant who still is a licensed optometrist, meets applicable requirements for education and demonstrated competency, has completed the exam requirements, and then this would add files with the boards of medical practice and of optometry, a practice agreement as set forth in subsection E, and a transfer plan as set forth in subsection F. For educational requirements, this is just replacing the Board of Optometry with the Board of Medical Practice as the approval or entity for the postgraduate course sponsored by an organization. It takes out the training on the didactic classroom instruction on laser related aspects and renumbers accordingly. Then for the preceptorship, it would increase the hours of clinical training, the in-person hands-on training from at least 8 hours to at least 18 hours. Remove references to performing laser procedures on patients, and increase the number of each of the supervised excisions or injections from 2 to 12. This is just clarifying because this is a smaller scope than was originally discussed, that the preceptor would be an optometrist with a substantially similar or broader scope of practice, which is consistent with some language later on that talks about substantially equivalent or broader scope of practice. Again, adding the Board of Medical Practice as the one with whom the preceptor log is filed. No changes to the examination requirements. And then here we have the practice agreement. So this is fairly similar to the practice agreement between a physician assistant and physician in existing statute. This allows an optometrist to hold an advanced therapeutic procedure specialty and perform the advanced procedures only if the optometrist has entered into a written practice agreement with an ophthalmologist who's licensed under either the medical doctor or osteopathic physician chapters, or with a Vermont-based ophthalmology practice at which one or more ophthalmologists licensed pursuant to those chapters practices, which shall include all of the following: processes for ophthalmologist communication, availability, decision-making, and periodic joint evaluation of services delivered when providing medical care to a patient, a plan to have an ophthalmologist available for consultation at all times when the optometrist is performing or preparing to perform an advanced therapeutic procedure, and the signatures of the optometrist and the ophthalmologist or authorized representative of the practice. Requires the practice agreement to be reviewed by the optometrist and either the ophthalmologist or representative of the practice at a minimum at the time of the optometrist's license renewal. Requires the practice agreement to be filed with the boards in the form and manner required by the Board of Medical Practice. Specifies that nothing in this section should be construed to require that the that an ophthalmologist be physically present at the time and place at which an optometrist is performing an advanced therapeutic procedure. And it specifies that optometrists are responsible for their own medical decision-making, and there is not legal liability for an ophthalmologist or ophthalmology practice in a practice agreement with an optometrist by the mere existence of the practice agreement, but it does not otherwise limit the liability. So just the existence of the practice plan itself does not, a practice agreement itself does not create liability for the ophthalmologist. Then we have a transfer plan that says, again, an optometrist may hold the advanced therapeutic procedure specialty and perform the advanced procedures only if the optometrist has in place a written plan for transferring a patient to the nearest hospital or to another nearby qualified healthcare provider or facility as determined by the Board of Medical Practice. Should an adverse event occur in connection with an advanced therapeutic procedure, and the plan must be filed with the Board of Medical Practice and Board of Optometry in the form and manner required by the Board of Medical Practice. Then again, adding in just the references to the board being the Board of Medical Practice, because otherwise it's the Board of Optometry in this chapter. We have some additional reporting requirements. So in addition to the optometrist reporting any adverse event related to an advanced therapeutic procedure to the Board of Optometry, it would also go to the Board of Medical Practice within 30 days. And every 2 years, as part of the license renewal process, it would require each optometrist with this specialty to report to the boards the number of each of the procedures in that expanded scope that the optometrist performed during the previous licensure period. Section 6 is some language around Medicaid coverage for services delivered by an optometrist with the specialty. This would require Vermont Medicaid to cover services that are within the scope of practice of an optometrist with the specialty to the same extent that the services would be covered if they were delivered by a physician. Again, licensed under either of those two chapters. And directs the Department of Vermont Health Access to seek a state plan amendment from the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to take effect on July 1st, 2028, to allow the Medicaid program to provide coverage for services delivered by an optometrist who is a Medicaid participating provider and holds that specialty. Finally, effective date becomes effective dates. The Medicaid coverage and state plan amendment, and this section, Medicaid coverage meaning they'll seek the state plan amendment, and this section would take effect on passage. Section 6, the Medicaid coverage itself would take effect on the later of July 1st, 2028, or approval of the state plan amendment by the feds. And the remaining sections would take effect on July 1st, 2028, which was as in the bill previously.
Questions? No, that's why I was asking for
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
Back to Council.
For the record, Mary Catherine Stone, Representative Clinton 14. Thank you all. Thank the committee. Thank you for this time. I'm presenting this amendment because I believe that it makes the bill better. As you all know, I'm an occupational therapist, and my entire career has been built around one North Star. Patients always deserve the best possible care from the most qualified provider available. That is not controversial. That is foundational, and I hope we can all agree on that. I also want to dispel the myth I've heard that this bill is about access. I want to address that directly because the evidence simply does not support it. The Green Mountain Care Board and the Sunrise report from the Secretary of State have already reviewed whether there was a shortage of surgical services in Vermont, and there is not. There are ophthalmologists in every region of this state who are available, experienced, and appropriately trained to perform all of the procedures on the procedures list laid out in this bill. I also want to be very clear about something. Lasers and eyelid surgeries are not primary care, and I caution us to keep framing them as such. We have also seen that the expansion of surgical scope has not improved access in other states in a significant way, and we should not accept that premise here. I also want to be extremely clear that this amendment does not kill the bill. That's another myth I have heard again and again. It's factually untrue. It does not block optometrists from expanding their practice. What it does is ensure that if we are going to allow these procedures, we hold practitioners to a standard worthy of Vermonters' trust. We strengthen guardrails all of the time in this body, in this committee. That's not an obstruction, that's good legislation. And I feel that's what we're called to do here as lawmakers. Anyone who tells you that adding patient safety requirements kills a bill is telling you the guardrails were the problem, and we should push back on that notion. My amendment has a lot of meat on it. I know that. It's written that way on purpose. This is a meaningful and important topic, and we should be doing our utmost to give it the process that Vermonters deserve. This is not about turf. This is not about political gains. This is not about ego. This is not about lobbying wars. There are a lot of lobbyists in here, so I'm saying that out loud. This is not about any of that, though. This is about making sure that when a Vermonter sits down in a chair and someone picks up a laser or a scalpel, that the person giving them care has demonstrated and continues to demonstrate that they know what they're doing. I want to have an honest conversation about that. And if this bill does succeed, I want it to be in a way that Vermont can be proud of. I want it to move forward in a way with standards that put patients first. And my desire to raise the bar should not be seen as controversial or confrontational. It's not. This is me coming to you as a legislator, but also as a healthcare provider. I believe the only one in either chamber who currently holds an active license to work with patients. Begging you to think things through using critical reasoning. I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate the time to discuss this, and I would really appreciate y'all leading with curiosity as opposed to confrontation. I know that we have different letters behind our names, but we're all on the same team, and we are all called to serve because we share a common goal to serve others and do so to the best of our ability. So let's lead with that mindset. That's how good policy is made. So I'm just asking you to dig in instead of just pushing this through. Thank you.
Any questions? I'm really conscious of the time of the other stuff. The Secretary of State's office, OPR, did request that we hold this till tomorrow on any decisions, so they had time to review. So they are scheduled for 10:30 tomorrow, so we'll be taking any position on this subject matter today. Rep. Nugent, yeah, well, 10:30.
I don't want to make extra work for people, but I think the person is that it would be helpful if there be kind of high level summary, like what each section does from somewhere.
So can we speak up? We got the fans and stuff.
Sorry.
And actually, Council, you want to come up to the table? Because I think we might have a question or two that's relevant to you. Yeah, that's fine. We just need to elevate our voices, folks.
Sorry.
Yeah. That ambient noise.
I was just saying, I would find it helpful if there was some kind of summary, like a sentence per section or something, what's happening, if that's possible.
Section by section.
Or the, of the bill as it came over or the proposed changes?
You have a question, Daniel?
I just want to clarify that my question for you earlier was going to be what remains of the expanded scope of practice. So I think that is a comparison of what came over from the Senate versus what this amendment would change. So I think that's what Rep. Nugent is probably asking for. A little bit more. Okay. So what this amendment actually does and what it allows as compared to what the Senate sent us. Did healthcare change it at all? No.
The only instance of amendment was the date change that occurred in the Senate.
Okay.
Anything else for council? We're on time to review till tomorrow morning at 10:30. Want to be cautious of the schedule.
But that's, so 10:30, you said we're going tomorrow? We'll be here till about noon.
I can't hear you, sir.
I wouldn't be here till about noon, but,
Yes, well, we're bringing the secretary saying we can hold on the position.
okay, perfect.
Will we hear from anyone else about sort of the logistics of like requiring the ophthalmologist to be a supervising person, like from them or from optometrists about it? Do you-
I mean, if you want to bring more people in for testimony, I'm open to that.
Yeah,
So you feel free to line up folks. For,
me or Rep Stone?
oh yeah, we can work on that
Oh, okay.
once we have the functions, we can figure out what this is. Okay, anything else for council right now before shifting over to voting rights? Rep Bissoff.
We've been talking about this bill for months, and I'm just curious as to why we waited till the 25th hour to present it. I mean, I get it, I understand what you're trying to do, and I respect that, but this would have been nice to have 3-4 weeks ago to, so we would have had more time to take more testimony and find out the scopes of what this really does to the optometrists and the ophthalmologists. That's just, it's just frustrating. It's the 25th hour and now we're getting this, and I don't feel that we're gonna hear great testimony coming after this to weigh in on both sides of it.
Partially because there was a myth that if any, when a comma was changed, that it would kill the bill. And it took a lot of dispelling of that, me talking to the council and leadership to make sure that wasn't true. So that's why, and I wanted to make sure it was really thoughtful and make sure that like I'd listened to all the testimony before I did it, but that's not the point. During my speech of like, I want to dispel that because that was something that was running rampant that, oh, if you change a comma, if you do anything, it'll kill a bill. And I thought that was odd because we change bills all the time here, at least talk about it. And then once I found out that wasn't true, I went with it. So that's how that went down. I was playing by the rules until I realized the rules I was being told were untrue. So,
I hadn't heard those rules, so.
yeah, well, I think it's because I was the one proposing to do this. Here we are.
She beat me to it. I was gonna say why she was 25th, I was gonna say 11th hour, because we've had plenty of time, just to be honest, and, but frankly, I thought we would have voted this bill out some time ago. But I had the same concern. Because I'm, clock is ticking, we're down to a few legislative days.
Well, I thought we only saw that video of the eyeball being sliced open a couple weeks ago, and that was one of our first days of testimony, right? We haven't been talking about this for months. We've been hearing about it for months, but we've only had it in committee and hearing testimony since we got it from healthcare a couple weeks ago. A couple or a few weeks ago. And I think if this happened in January, getting an amendment on a bill 3 or 4 or even 5 or 6 weeks after we heard an introduction wouldn't be unusual. It's just the timing of when we started talking about it. It is later in the session. And also, I don't think being like, it's the end, it's the last minute, therefore we shouldn't do an amendment is,
I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. We shouldn't do an amendment. I'm just saying it'd be nice to hear more testimony now that
yeah.
heard this amendment to find out what this amendment actually does.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we do that. I agree with you. And it would be nice if we had more time, but we have the time we have. Hopefully we can make it work, but.
Nugent. And
I'm done.
we get over to voting rights.
Yes, voting rights.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, I appreciate having these thoughts here to look at because, at least from my perspective, I wasn't really satisfied with where I was at with the parts of the bill that there isn't agreement between the two main sectors. And I think, sorry, I think that I'm appreciative of hearing these concepts because where we had left it last, I didn't feel there was enough agreement between the two interested parties to feel comfortable that this was the right decision. So regardless, I guess, of the time they have left, that's important to me, so. How many sections? How many sections are
Sections in the bill?
in the change? How many? 7?
All right.
I might be a Dell.
We'll pick this back up at 10:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you, council. All right, moving on. Mr. Devlin, or actually, let's maybe start with, time to get Senator. Conscious of your time, sir. Well, why don't we start with the Senate council?
Oh.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I don't think you'll have trouble.
Walk in.
Broadcaster voice.
Yeah, and the hits. Just keep on coming. So we took what was presented, and you did fine work on this bill. And we made 3 amendments to it, and we're asking for you to concur as it comes back. The first one has to do with the deletion of a sentence. So if you are looking at the bill as it came back to us, the sentence in section 4 that reads, upon contact by a candidate, the commission shall provide answers to the candidate's questions by email or by phone, whichever the candidate may prefer. In order, and I'll speak on behalf of my committee, to less burdens the commission, we deleted that sentence. What we didn't envision was that they'd be sitting by the phone waiting for someone to call or looking at their computer and getting constant emails from candidates' questions. That's the only thing we did to that section. And we felt that at least it provided a little less burdensome task for the Ethics Commission. So that's our first instance of amendment. Yes.
Yep, so just to be clear, the commission will have FAQs posted on their webpage, which I see is in your amendment. But there's no, the bill is silent on whether they will get back to anybody who needs the inquiry via email or phone.
Correct. Again, the only thing we did was delete that one sentence that required them to answer by telephone or by email candidates' individual questions. The second instance of amendment asked for a new section to read. And by the way, you can continue with that, Representative Hango. The Office of the Secretary of State shall provide hyperlinks from its webpage to this disclosure form. In other words, we wanted a back and forth ability for candidates to look, where's that form available? If they went to either Secretary of State or the Ethics Commission, they could discover where that form was. The second one was, again, on or before January 30th, 2027, the State Ethics Commission and the Secretary of State's office shall report to this group and the Senate Government Operations their combined and shared recommendations on how to best manage candidate disclosure forms required under Title 17. So in many ways, the former chair of the Senate Government Operations Committee used to say when we had opposing, go to the cafeteria, talk amongst yourself, and come back with a solution. And we've done that on more than one occasion this year. This, in essence, is asking the same effort to be done by both the Secretary of State and the Ethics Commission. Get over wherever you want to meet and figure out how we're going to handle this going forward. And then the third one was the amendment that was attached that, from what I understand, you folks here didn't have enough time to consider it. And it goes back to, I believe it was 2025, when we amended this definition of a political action committee. And so we haven't even had an election cycle to go through this yet. And what we changed was one conjunction in that definition. So it now reads, that you have to take money in and expend it in a 2-year election cycle in order for you to come under the requirements of being a PAC. The conjunction that was there based on what we did in 2025 was or, so it took in more people, and there was concern raised by a lot of people, nonprofits and whoever they were before, that this would capture more than we intended them to do. So we added the word and, making it a requirement they have to do both in order to come under those requirements. So those are the three amendments that we're offering. And again, I would ask for your at least consideration to concur with the proposal of amendment and go from there. But I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'm loath to bring this up, but I'm going to. On the bottom of page 1, where it says, at line 19, where it says the Office of the Secretary of State shall provide hyperlinks from its webpage connecting to the disclosure form and other materials and resources required of the State Ethics Commission. We are still keeping that the Ethics Commission is hosting them and that they are simply linking to them from the Secretary of State's website. That's not changing.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
The same FAQs, by the way, we envision would be available regardless of what page you go to find that link.
Yeah. Well, I have a comment, which is, I think I love your go work it out in the cafeteria section here. I think we tried our best, you tried your best. I think both sides kind of tried their best to come to some kind of agreement, but we might have muddied the waters more by trying to help. And I think, you know, maybe this is the best solution. I do feel in that first, just to remind everyone, in that first change where we said email or phone, we had included it because of folks with disabilities, to make sure that if they were running for office, that if they couldn't email, they could call, or if they didn't, or even just general access for candidates, that if they didn't have broadband access, if they lived somewhere where there wasn't service, that they would be able to call someone. But I think that it probably leaves it vague enough so that it's not prescribing you have to do one of those things, and it's just saying, you know, we're just going to kind of leave it as it is. That feels not awesome, but in general, I think this is a good compromise on all the issues that we've talked about. And I, you know, have been obsessed with this for months now, and I am supportive of it and hopeful that in the future we can work out something really good, and that the Secretary of State's office and the Ethics Commission, we're both doing really good, important work, can come together and figure out what the best path forward is for the forum. But my personal feeling is that we could happily concur.
I appreciate those comments.
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you. I think what you're requesting in this amendment actually already exists on the Secretary of State's website, because there is a link to where to find the financial disclosure form. It goes right to the Ethics Commission. So I appreciate that the Secretary of State's office has put that on there already. And also appreciate that you're asking the two entities to work together to come up with a solution, a permanent solution.
Thank you.
Anything else from the senator before we go to council? I think that was pretty thorough, made council's job pretty brisk on this one, but nothing else from you, sir?
All set.
You are released.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to comment that by the time this becomes a law, the filing period will be over, and we have not solved anything for this year, but hopefully we will for next year.
And the indemnification, if that's the correct legal term, for current candidates remains in the bill.
Yes.
That there's no penalties going to be imposed for any delinquent disclosure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thanks.
If I may, I just want to note one thing, that I believe we always file an amended report at whatever point in time, because you can do that with campaign finance reports if you realize you made an error or something. So I think there's a draft for that as well in the next several months.
Council.
Afternoon, committee members. For the record, Tim Devlin, Legislative Council. If anybody's having difficulty hearing me, please ask me to speak up. I just struggling to hear folks at the other side of the table. Okay. So, Chair Byron, would you like to just kind of run through the amendments to anything on that, or?
Yes, please. I think, Sarah Callamore did a pretty thorough job.
Okay. Sure. So maybe a little redundant, but feel free to stop me at any point and ask me to kind of dig into it some more. So the first instance of amendment, we have striking out section 4 and really replacing it with almost identical language, but putting a kind of shock block on it kind of. So it'll basically now be session law that dictates that the State Ethics Commission will provide certain informational materials to candidates running for those certain state county offices. And this will run through May 30th, 2027. That mirrors the same kind of durational aspect to the suspension of penalties and enforcement for any delinquent disclosures of the same form. So those will kind of run on the same time scale there. The second instance of amendment on page 2 will create a new section to be 4A, another session law, and this will provide that, let's see, on or before January 30, 2027, charges the State Ethics Commission and the Secretary of State's office to report to this committee and sister committee in the Senate with their combined and shared recommendations on how to best manage candidate disclosure forms required under the statute at issue here. Third instance of amendment is a change to the definitions in campaign finance laws. We have those housed in 17 VSA 2901. The definition at issue here is definition of political committee or political action committee or PAC. And changing it to PAC shall mean any formal or informal committee of one or more individuals or a corporation or other entity that accepts and makes expenditures in any amount in any 2-year general election cycle for the purpose of supporting or opposing one or more candidates in the election, et cetera, et cetera. So again, where current law has it that in order to be considered a PAC, who can, the entity or individual group of people may either accept any contributions or make expenditures any amount, be qualified as a meet the definition of PAC, and thereafter would be subject to registration thresholds. I think it's $500 now, and any subsequent reporting. This will be changed to you have to do both, essentially, being that you'll have to accept contribution in some amount and make an expenditure in some amount to be defined as a PAC, and therefore later be subject to the registration and a lot of reporting requirements. That's it.
Thank you, council.
Questions for?
Just wanted to make sure I understand that. I know, Rep. Palmer or Senator Palmer mentioned it, but that last part, that's different from candidates then. Candidates have to file, whether they spend being worth.
Yeah. Yep. This is for political action committees or PACs or political committee, same thing.
And this isn't making a new change, it's just reverting it back to the old language that we changed a couple of years ago, the and or.
Last year's bill, I forget the name off the top of my
Is
head.
it 2 years ago?
It's last year, actually.
Oh, it was.
It changed the threshold. So there were actually thresholds in the definitions, I think about $500.
Yeah.
Or so it's not exactly reverting it to the exact same thing,
Okay.
bring it to, I suppose, somewhat similar language, but could have different effects.
Okay.
Anything else for council?
No.
Nope. Okay. Yes, we have a couple minutes. We can give you a few minutes. Thank you, council.
For the record, my name is Paul Earlbaum. I'm Chair of the Vermont State Ethics Commission. I guess I'll start off by saying I have no problem with section 4A. I'll be happy to go have a discussion in the cafeteria with the Secretary of State's office. But Senator Collmore, moments ago, said that the change that they made by removing the sentence about responding by email and phone, that would unburden the Ethics Commission. But that's not good. If you look at the very first sentence, the State Ethics Commission shall provide informational resources and answer candidates' questions regarding requirements. So the sentence about emails and phones was to add an accessibility statement. But still, the Ethics Commission is charged with answering candidates' questions. Under this bill, it does not unburden us a bit. Under our current staffing with a half-time administrative assistant, a half-time executive director, we would simply not be able to fulfill this. And I should say thank you to the House generally for approving one new position for the Ethics Commission. Though, as you may know, the Senate has removed that. It's up in the air now. If we do get that one position, we might have to decide between the various unfunded mandates we have, including this one, which unfunded mandate we'll be able to fulfill with one additional staff. I think that's about it, unless you have questions for me.
This one.
I believe if you have a comprehensive questions and answers, that will eliminate phone call. I mean, people are gonna call in if they can't find the answer on that question in the answer sheet. So it would be, I think it would be best if you could come up with as many questions that may be asked and have the answers. And then on your answers, you can have a directive to go to that website to find your answers. And then if they can't, then they'll call and leave a message. But I think what types of questions should be asked are always going to be I would 99% chance that they're going to be the same kind of questions over and over again about different filing requirements. I found the form very complicated, and I disclosed stuff that I was told that I didn't have to disclose. But I've got to be safe and sorry on the current form. So I just think that if you gave enough question and answers, then it would eliminate the number of calls that you get.
I'd be glad to respond to that if you'd like.
Sure.
Thank you. I've been in the position of responding to those calls over the last couple of weeks. As you might remember, Chris Sivert agreed that we would post the form if the Secretary of State's office did. They started distributing it, so we posted the form, including those FAQs. But I've been answering the phone, and I got to say, people have all sorts of creative questions to ask that I don't know if I would have anticipated. They're certainly not within the FAQs. We can continue building those FAQs, but people have all sorts of creative questions to ask that no list of FAQs is going to respond to. Maybe a bunch. And certainly the answering machine, that's not a bad idea. I like it. To point people to the FAQs. I think some people don't get to the end of what's posted to get to the FAQs. And maybe a telephone message would help. But again, no set of FAQs is going to respond to all the questions. I'm getting.
So then go.
Say with the website design, you could always bump the FAQ up to the top. Exactly.
Yeah, we could.
Yes,
That's a good point.
simple coding.
Yeah.
Fix that right
Yeah,
up.
or make mention of it up top.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the thoughts.
I have, as you know, I don't want to speak for the committee. I can speak for myself, though. Our committee just, I've heard a lot of talk about this. And this committee recommended, in our budget, recommend both positions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
For the Ethics Commission. I really believe in it. I think we all as a committee really believed that you needed to be fully staffed and fully funded. By the time it made you, as you know, we don't really have any money. So when it came out of appropriations, House appropriations, and went to the Senate, I believe they've taken out that funding. I know that we are still, they're in committee of conference, they're still working on the budget. There's, always a chance. I think it makes it a little difficult for us, however, sometimes, to be frank, when we are like trying really hard to make this work for everybody. And I understand that she hasn't had a vacation in a while, but also many people haven't had a vacation in a while. And to say, that the ethics director, we know you guys are pressed for time and we know you're pressed for staffing, but also your director is gone during an election year when we knew there were big changes coming. And I'm not saying she doesn't deserve the time, and I'm not saying she shouldn't have taken the sabbatical, but what I'm saying is a lot of the pickle that we're in right now is because of this situation. Whether it's, I'm not assigning blame or anything, but I'm saying the fact of the matter is your director is gone, and that's really contributing to a lot of the stress and the strife. It's not that we're not supporting you having staffing, it's that the staff you do have right now isn't here. And that makes it really pressing for you, and we feel terrible about it. Hopefully we can fix this in the future. But, I think the focusing on the right now is a little bit, it neither here nor there, only because hopefully we're going to be able to fix it in the future. We can get some money, we can get you and the Secretary of State's office and the Ethics Commission can figure this all out. But the immediate situation, which has sort of led us to not having a forum and everyone's confused and all of this, is because of this current situation. I'm not assigning blame. I'm just saying that's the way that I see the situation is unfolded over the last, 5 or 6 months.
I'd be glad to respond.
Yeah.
First off, thank you for the hope that we will get a position.
Yeah.
You
No.
never know. And secondly, I believe I've said this, maybe I haven't said this before. When the ethics commissioners agreed to this leave for Christine Sivert, our executive director, that was like back in October, November 2025. We had no idea that all of a sudden, after 8 years, the Secretary of State's office will say, this is for you to do, Ethics Commission. So we had no idea that granting her leave during an election season would make any difference. We've never done this. So, but thank you, again, thank you for the hope.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work on this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We worked hard.
Ready? This is on the floor today, so I'd like to thank you very much, sir. Wow, Rep Pistol, ready to go. Any other comments or questions regarding the proposal of amendment from the Senate that we were reviewing? Nope. Okay.
Kind of break on the floor until 3:30.
Okay, cool. Did not get the name of it. Thank you.
3:30? I hear.
Yes. You just get a message?
So with that, barring any other further discussion, comment or concerns, favorable thumbs on the proposal of amendment?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Rep Scully.
Brett Scully.
Oh, he's just
He's
writing
writing
his thoughts.
Jim
Oh,
Thumb.
there you have thoughts. So that is,
Yeah, I had it up.
so that's an 11-0-0 favorable thumbs. Thank you. That's a lot of work on that bill. Let's see.
I'm gonna miss this.
Yep. So let's just chugging along here. We are waiting for Rep Marcotte. to come. Oh, hey, look at you. Ninja sitting in the corner. All right. So we have a proposal of amendment to, we have two things. We have a Senate proposal amendment and also a proposal amendment from Rep Marcotte. So, why don't we hear from Rep Marcotte first? It is,
So tired of this.
Great.
yes, please, sir. And I heard Rep Pistol say something. I'm trying to pick up on this.
Seriously.
That's
Tired of it.
We are live, folks. We are still live.
No, but thank you. Aha. Mr. Chipper.
They are.
To the
All
room.
right, record rooms in the building.
Yeah.
Representative
Yeah, we win.
Markov, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, Mr.
Or you have your proposal of amendment posted. This is a very full page. Yeah, Senate proposal of amendment. Yeah, do we have the proposal of amendment from what Marcotte post? Oh, it's under, okay, gotcha. All right, guys, it is, there it is. It's under council's name. Table is yours, sir. We do have the oscillating fan, so if you could elevate your voice, that'd be wonderful. Not oscillating, stagnant fan, binary fan, static fan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Representative Michael Markov from Coventry, Chair of House Commerce and Economic Development. I think we're all aware of what happened to H 674. The governor vetoed it. I've been working with the governor's office. We have a fix to that. And I just need a vehicle to park it on in order to get it through to make sure that bill gets through this year. And so I'm asking you to consider amending H 907 with the language that you have. It's very small. I think what it does is change the termination of the sister state that we may want to be terminated, that it would be an advisory. It would come from the commission as an advisory recommendation to the governor, but the governor has sole authority to terminate. Same as the governor has sole authority to appoint. And that's, everything else is the same in the bill as what we passed, what the Senate passed, just something that I think everybody missed. And I've been working again with the governor's office as well. They're on board with this change. The governor himself is on board with the change.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that there are other entities that are very similar to this, that the governor has the authority to terminate. Is that what I read somewhere?
Yeah, when you're talking about the governor in trade, or if he has the sole authority to either approve or terminate. And that's in our constitution.
There. I read that somewhere.
Yes. All right, questions for Representative Marcotte before we shift over to council? This is something I know the partnerships and whatnot have been discussed in this committee over time. And are also, there's a lot of gases to the ones in it. National Guard, so that's also been a conversation in around here, right?
Can you just remind me what bill number it was that the governor vetoed because the language wasn't in there?
674.
Is that House bill?
Yeah.
House of the Chair.
And I have had that conversation with your counterpart chair in Senate. He's aware.
Okay. Yeah. Rep. Waters.
Will this have to go through your committee or is it just here now? Okay.
An amendment that's going on your bill. My committee is aware. We had a fix. We were gonna try a different approach because I have an S bill sitting on my wall, but this would be a lot cleaner and simpler.
Nice work.
Although when you can find a moving vehicle for problem solving, I'm glad we're here to accommodate, sir.
We certainly appreciate your consideration.
Welcome addition to that reports repeal bill. Years of work. Rep. Scott.
So we could have a committee of conference on this bill.
I mean, if you want to go full circle on the gag, yes. That's still out there. Yeah. Badooch. So,
I want
council. Council.
No, Frank is good.
I had you down on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, we're bounce passing this? Nice.
Right.
Hello again, Rick Stengel with the Office of Legislative Counsel. So just a little bit
of kind of clarifying what's going on. So 674 vetoed, that language literally has been copied and pasted into this amendment from Rep. Marcotte 907. You all don't have 907. It is a proposal of amendment that you all are going to do straw poll over. So you wouldn't be able to report favorably or not. You could do a straw poll on Rep. Marcotte's amendment, just kind of clarifying the procedural aspect of this. My colleague Tim is going to handle the 907 Senate proposal. He is more familiar with that language than I am. So I'm going to handle the sister state Ireland language that was vetoed by the governor. I can share my screen. You okay?
Pump up the font for me.
So, like I said, literally a copy and paste of 674. I'll give you the 10,000 foot overview of what this does. It creates the Vermont Sister State Program. There was a working group that Rick Granning was a part of last year that was also created by the General Assembly to report back on this program, and they did. And you have a bill that would actually formalize the working group's recommendations. So it creates a program under ACCD. It has oversight of a committee that is appointed by, has appointments by the speaker, the committee on committees, various other chairs of relevant stakeholders. The governor has a couple of appointees. So members serve 2-year terms. They can be reappointed. They should be a chair and vice chair selected. They shall meet quarterly, at least quarterly. They can meet more to discuss their business, also to proceed and review an application to be in the sister state program. So subsection D on starting on page 3 and then on to page 4 is kind of a hierarchy of how this works. ACCD kind of creates a program. They set forth the application, they create the criteria to be eligible. They do kind of the paperwork that is to be the sister state program. They create the internal review process. So the way it's going to work is a country, town outside of this country could apply to be a sister state of Vermont. The ACCD would receive the application. They would do its internal review. And if it met their internal review, they would then submit it to the committee for consideration. The committee has a fixed scoring system, a rubric that ACC will create. They will have a public meeting to discuss the proposed agreement with this other entity. And if the committee deems it worthy, they will submit it to the governor for final approval. The committee can also say, we do not want this to go to the governor, and they can decline that application. The governor receives the applications approved by the committee, and the governor has the authority to either formalize or reject a sister state applicant. That's a very 10,000 foot view. There's details in the language, which you already passed, but again, I want to make sure you know what's going on. The difference that in yellow is in the version that passed but was vetoed, there was language that said the committee would be able to terminate an existing agreement. There was discussion in another committee about an escape clause. What if a country that we become a sister state with bombs another country? You know, it does something out of not expected, right? So the language that was put in gave that authority to the committee. The governor disagreed that that was a power the committee should have. And so language has been adjusted that says the committee may propose to the governor that an agreement be terminated, but then the governor still has the ultimate authority whether or not to terminate a partnership. The committee reports on an annual basis, pretty standard language. They get the standard per diem language that all other groups, commissions get through the General Assembly. Attached to the sister state bill was the Vermont Ireland changes. Vermont Ireland is already law. However, this bill made changes to the Vermont Ireland Trade Commission. Again, this is a copy and paste from what was in 674. It adds a couple members to the Vermont Trade Commission, Vermont Ireland Trade Commission, the Commissioner of Economic Development or designee, and the President of UVM or designee. It adjusts some language to conform with those two new members being appointed. Subsection F deals with this commission is allowed to raise funds. They don't get reimbursed, so they have their own fundraising mechanism. And language was added to kind of ensure, make it more transparent that money they raise can't be spent on elections. It has to be administrative expenses only. So kind of meant to ensure that the commission, the funds that they do raise, which is managed by the state treasurer, those funds are used for only specific reasons. And if you want to see, it does not include campaign or election activity, food or beverages provided at official commission meetings, or other expenses not specific to the administrative functions of the commission. And the last part of the bill was the report. The Vermont Ireland Trade Commission will sunset in 2029 or 2030, I believe. So in December 2029, they will submit a report to the General Assembly to kind of remind you all, hey, this is about to sunset, and give you all a full report as to whether you want to extend the sunset, remove it, or let the commission sunset. The effective dates were updated H907, not even close. H907 was set to take effect July 1, 2026. H674 was to be on passage, so just conforming everything that the 674 language takes effect on passage, and the other sections take effect on July 1, 2026. Happy to answer questions. I know that was fast, so.
Sunshine bill, not a sunset.
This is it's a sunset, but you may eventually decide to eclipse it. I'm trying new things. I'm trying different ways of explaining.
I respect that.
Yeah. It is May 20th, you know.
We're well aware.
We should grab food.
Favor this thing, and just, right?
Okay, let's hear the other one.
Yes.
Let's hear the other one, so.
Describe the other. I'll hang around.
We appreciate your enthusiasm, but we also have to hear from you when this rants on the outline.
Yes, I won't leave.
Yes, please do not leave. That's true.
Yes. Next, we have one council for the proposal of amendment. We have one council for the underlying bill. Council.
Thank you for having me back again. For the record again, my name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel. I just had our committee assistant post a highlighted version, and this is what the Senate Gov Ops Committee, this is the last thing, it's draft 3.2, but this is what went on to be passed by the Senate. And this will, I'll kind of walk through some of these, all the changes, but I figured it's just more visually useful for individuals, for committee members to actually take a look at what has changed. So the Senate went through and adjusted most of the various kind of categories. And again, let me just kind of remind the committee that this bill was broken into those previous three bills. So we had which reports are being repealed because they're no longer necessary, which reports are having, their kind of next review date pushed back until 2030, and then which reports will be maintained, but no longer require that kind of check-in, that review that happens perennially from our office. This is on that big list that Tucker's circulating. The Senate introduced a fourth category, and that was modifying the reports themselves. So, well, I should say, there was only one instance where they modified the contents of a report, what's to be reported. Most of the other ones have to do with the frequency of reporting. So there's a few examples of a report being required every year. They pushed that to every 2 years. There's another one where there was a report that, is contingent on the event actually occurring. We'll get to that. So the judiciary, did they have any temporary employees at all? And then if so, then they would have to report every 2 years. So that fourth category of reports modified. is the bulk of the changes here. So, let's see. Change, sections 1 through 11, it has to do with the repeal of the reports. No changes to those made by this, Senate. The first real change we see is in section 12, and this is that list of, repealed sections, subsections, and subdivisions. And so, happy too hasty. We do get into the repeal of some reports, and so they had changed a few of these, removing from the list, that is, so they're no longer to be deleted, they're to be maintained. The reports on genuine progress indicators from Act 113 in 2012. And then the reports on various licenses issued to service members and veterans. Those professional licenses.
Excuse me, Tim, where are those that you're reading from? What line? What?
All right, so this is section 12 and on draft 3.2, they will appear, let's see, on page 12. And we'll see some of the ones that are removed. Because they're removed, they won't show up here clearly. So, but they did result in the renumbering of some of the sections. That's why those are.
Renumbering is there, but there's no strike where something's been deleted, because that's what I was looking for. Okay, so you're just telling us which reports they deleted.
Yes, yeah, because section 12 is just session law, so everything is underlined because of our drafting conventions. And this is just a list of things that are to be repealed, so it's removed from the list of to be repealed, meaning it stays in law as it is. And so it just no longer appears on our running list here in section 12.
The hand up this now,
Yes,
this now then.
so these are reports that we took out and now they're adding them back in. Is that how I'm understanding that?
So the whole list, 12, all the things that are going to be removed. The Senate decided to put 2 of those back in. 2 of those back in. And by not, I say, not into the bill, they're putting them back in the, or not changing the law. They're maintaining the requirement.
Could you name those reports again, please? I can.
Yes. One is from Act 113 to 2012. That's the report on genuine progress indicators. And then the second is from Act 119, 2008. And that's reports on various professional licensures issued to service members and veterans. And that was actually broken into 3 sub reports. So those will, instead of being deleted, they will be continuing to be reported.
Okay, my question or my statement on this for Rep. Pitznall, which might be helpful, is that the Senate actually was able to get a response from the committees that we may not have gotten a response from. And we put it on our to be repealed because that was how we posted to the committee. But they actually found out that those reports are being used, and that's why they now want to retain them, even though we recommended repealing. And Rep. Nugent, you had a question before me. Sorry.
It was the same question because I remember the line for 2012 genuine progress indicator, the forget his name, Justin Kenny's position had said that they don't use that and it's duplicative. So I'm surprised to see that's back in there actually.
Somehow they took testimony, and I did speak with Senator Vyhovsky about a couple of these, and they determined that they wanted to keep it for whatever reason, and I guess you'll have to ask the senators.
And I should just note, we'll get to it a little bit later on, but those reporting for professional licensure for service members and veterans, that's one of the reports that's actually being modified. So it's being, the requirements being kept in there, but it's being changed to report being due every other year instead of being. That's just jumping to a little bit. So section 13, let's see. Of the bill, this has to do with the reports that are having the review delayed until 2030 instead of just every year. And let's see, the Senate amended this list, removing from the list The State Ethics Commission reports concerning complaints, guidance, training and recommendations. And that would have, I just want to show this is,
Sorry, what page are you on now?
right, this is in section 13. And that should just be the next page. I have 14 of draft 3.2. And so it's being removed from the list of things that will be, the check-in will be pushed out. And actually it will appear again in section 15 later on, being that it will be required in perpetuity. So it's removing any check-in in the future whatsoever. So it'll just be required every year. Let's see, section 13 also removed the Criminal Justice Council report concerning use of electronic control devices. And instead of having that just kind of reviewed in 2030 again, it has it being codified in law in section 2930. Right now, it just exists in session law. So it's going to take it out of session law and it's going to put it into the statute and have it be required every year without that review. Okay. Let's see. Then we'll move on to, let's see. Okay, section 14 through 24, and this is where we have reports exempted from 2 VSA, section 20, subsection D. And again, that's the annual check-in requirement. So if these reports are listed here, they won't go on to the Tucker list every year, and they'll just be reported as they are required in statute session law, wherever that requirement may exist. And they won't be, on the list for another law. So those, let's see, Senate added to this list includes section 14, which will further amend the report coming from the Office of Economic Opportunity, the weatherization data. And actually, here's where the one instance in the whole bill where the substance of what's to be reported was actually altered. And that was altering, let's see, not only the committees that received the report, but also certain details to be included in the report regarding weatherization. So section 15 replaced the, okay, I'll just say, okay, having to do with the report of the State Ethics Commission. That's right. Section 23 will further amend the reporting requirement for retirement funds integrity report so that it's also received by additional committees. And then section 25 added to this list as to not have any checkbacks. The report for information technology and cybersecurity from the Agency of Digital Services. Next, going into the simply modified reports. This is sections 20 to be renumbered 26 through 31. 26 will, again, I already spoke to this, but it will amend the reporting of professional licensure for service members and veterans. So that will be due every other year instead of annually. 27 will amend the requirement for the court administrator report on public record cases so that the reports are due every other year instead of annually. Section 28 will amend the report coming from the state court administrator for temporary employees, the report on temporary employees, that is. And that is so that the court administrator will not need to submit a report if there's no temporary employees hired in the prior 2 calendar years. In sections 29 and 23 spoke to this earlier, but they codify the requirement for the Vermont Criminal Justice Council to report on use of electronic control devices, tasers, converting from session law to statutory law. Then section 31 will amend, this is actually a new reporting requirement that was inserted that wasn't on your list. And this will amend the Cybersecurity Advisory Council's annual report, moving the due date from January 15th to February 15th.
And that's it.
Yeah, right, right, right. Dropped into the chair for that, and that's all, folks. All right. Questions for council on the Senate proposal of amendment on the reports of repeal. Remember, this is separate then, this is the underlying bill, proposal of the.
Well, I more had a question for the reporter of the bill, Representative Nugent. What are your feelings on this?
Well,
Not to put you on the spot, but you're the expert on the reports of repeal. This is like a year-long project for you.
More.
This is a 9-year-long project for you. You started before you were elected.
Actually, I think it was before I was even born.
You started in middle school in utero.
Time is elastic.
Yes.
I guess I have a question about process if there's something. Yeah. With,
On the report shuffle itself,
yeah.
what
on
is
the-
this
on the
disagreeable
Senate.
point?
Well, I would like to find out more information, I guess, but the one that I mentioned earlier. I was understanding was duplicative and unnecessary. Let's put back in there.
Which report was that? I couldn't quite.
duplicative and unnecessary.
This is a report on things being duplicative and unnecessary.
That's what the government.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't pass up. that. The report we're referring to is what page, what line?
Is it the general?
Yes.
What?
Page 13.
13.5, thank you. I had a handout of Rep. Waters Evans. And then it sounds like a hangout.
So the genuine progress indicator, I remember. That was one of the ones on my list. And
So was it?
it was, and I believe that the reason we recommended that it be taken out was because the person who was in charge of it at the University of Vermont had passed away and there was no one else to do it. But I do remember for some reason, someone in Senate GovOps saying they thought it was a really valuable report. So I'm wondering if, I mean, I can only guess for them, but I can't imagine. I think what's gonna happen is it's probably just gonna exist and no one's gonna do anything with it, right? It's like if it goes back in,
It's messy.
do you say it's messy? It is, but it
Yeah,
also
that's
won't
fine.
cost any time or money, which I think is, but yeah, I agree with you, but there's no one to actually create the report, so. I don't know, so I guess, for me, it's neither here nor there, but to share your frustration.
So I think I had asked that we have the bill reporter also come in. Was that not a happening thing, Nick? Sorry. Did I not ask that? Because I could totally be dreaming that I asked. I don't know. So maybe it would be helpful to have somebody from the Senate just comment on that one particular piece.
I apologize, I have to go. Anything else in this one or?
No, thank you, counsel. So you would like to hear from the Senate about this particular instance?
Just high level.
What they heard
Who's
that
the
made them
reporter on the
change
bill?
that.
Oh, not you. This,
I don't know. I'll look right now.
please, yes,
I think it was.
okay. Okay, for this, yes, Rep.
I think the frustrating part is that we spent a lot of time on this. And when they came here as our joint committee, they hadn't done any of their work. And then we had contacted people and we did our work and then all of a sudden, what do you say? What do you say?
It's all positive.
And then all of a sudden now they're put to bring all these changes and I don't know, it's just frustrating. I just feel like we did a lot of work to do this that hadn't been done in several years to get it brought up to date. And then they would sit here like, oh, really? That doesn't, and then come back for those changes to it. It's very frustrating.
Also known as legislating.
And yes, the
He's gonna
report
argue.
is Senator Duhovsky.
Is it?
but now we have, Senator Husky up here.
I can try to text her too.
Yeah, I would still, gotta move things. All right, committee, so we're gonna get Senator Mahovsky here, preferably before 3:30, we go back on the floor, be fabulous. So, all right, let's take this opportunity, since we have the underlying bill here in front of us, we want to hear what some thoughts on the changes. I'd like to take a position if possible on the proposal of amendment from Marcotte. No, Marcotte, we're still on this. So. Yes,
I think it seems terrific. And we already passed it out of the House, it already passed out of the Senate. There was one little thing that was a hiccup that they managed to solve. And so I recommend that we just concur with that amendment or addition or whatever it's called.
I think what we were doing is we were taking a straw poll to
Yeah, my
offer a
thumbs,
favorable
yeah, my thumbs up.
Position towards the floor amendment when it comes to the floor, so we're preemptively taking a position. Yes, okay, so favorable thumbs for Representative Marcotte's proposal of amendment. Awesome. That is a 902 on you. Right. All right, council. While we wait to see if Senator Mahovsky is available, could you please? We're going back to alcohol. This is such a gov ops day. This is such a gov ops hour and a half. We
I
have hit all
whiplash.
the buckets.
Alcohol
Subject
and cannabis at the end of
matters.
the day.
Need some chocolates.
I might need some.
Sorry, right now. I'm probably doing all of that's great. Yeah. I'll give you
A little chocolate.
Yeah, sure.
You're welcome.
Do you know where the Senate is right now?
We're live, watching comments.
Right, just,
They're not on the floor.
okay, that was my question.
Let's watch comments, the box says live.
Charlie.
Dude, back in the day where like Capitol Pro was a bar, yeah, they would call down. There's a roll call. Everybody would just like leave their tabs open.
I've heard this.
Page 907.
No.
No, the underlying bill, I mean,
A proposal of amendment.
From the,
the Senate proposal of amendment to page 97, 907.
907, yes. Heat stroke. How are you? It's been a while. Hey, council.
Hello. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so once again, Rick Segel with the Office of Legislative Counsel. H921, I understand when I walked through the Senate proposal, I understand when I left, there were some questions, really maybe one major question, disagreement about current law and how it applies to brewers and self-distributing. I did speak to my colleague Tucker, who is the attorney that handles this title for the most part. And so let me first understand the question. I watched the video, so I think I understand the question, but I believe the disagreement was whether under current law, a manufacturer, a brewer can self-distribute. Was that the question? And if there are any limits to that?
yes.
So it's fairly straightforward. No, asterisk, unless they get some type of additional license, maybe a packager's license, a wholesaler's license, but there's also some restrictions there. So what this bill does is make it very clear that a brewer can self-distribute up to 3,000 barrels per calendar year. So I can't say that either side was right or wrong, but for the most part, currently it's not straightforward that a brewer can self-distribute. They would need to get an additional license to do that. Does that help? I can read you Tucker's exact answer. It's very wordy, but
Please.
you want to hear his,
Yes.
hear his exact answer?
Love to hear Tucker's exact answer.
You don't think I did okay. Let's see. Title VII only allows a packager or wholesale dealer to distribute alcoholic beverages to first and second class licensees. certificate of approval holders may also distribute, though that is for export. I think that manufacturers are permitted to acquire packagers licenses. Might depend on the application of the rules, but I believe manufacturers are limited to the choice of operating a tap room or distributing, but not both. I am certain, and I confirm this, that the wholesale dealer license prohibits that practice in the statute. Bottom line, he said this, the amendment allows brewers to self-distribute without acquiring a package or wholesale or dealer license. So that's meaning the H29, not the amendment H29, the bill as passed by the House and not affected by the Senate proposal, is that makes it clear that they can self-distribute. Then you talk about franchising. I won't get into that, but there's some franchising microbreweries that come up, but that's, I think, an answer.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
yes. Yes, I'll
hang around
for a moment, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Friday night, Commissioner of the Department of Liquor and Lottery. What that is a delivery permit that allows the brewers to secure a permit and they can send directly a certain amount to consumers. It's not self-distribution, right? Self-distribution means that they can take a certain amount and sell that directly to the on-premise licensees and not go through a wholesaler. Which we have you understand there's a little, we allow brewers, we allow wineries to do self-distribute. We also allow wineries to send a small quantity directly to consumers. I think should clarify the confusion.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations in and around that previous bienniums around direct-to-consumer shipping and those pieces. And returning members to this committee will recall those conversations from last biennium. No, that actually offers a lot of clarity to that. Hey, any questions for the commissioner while we are on hot seat? I'll let you go. No, seeing no figures. Thank you. You're good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now that we have that clarification,
Senator Bielanski will be up as soon as they're done taking a vote.
okay,
He didn't give us a specific time.
thank you.
Mhm.
Rep Boyd.
I want to echo something I mentioned earlier. I think we took a lot of really thoughtful testimony on the underlying bill and that the Senate proposal of amendment makes tweaks to a lot of our hard work. Minus the caterer's license, that's kind of a new bit. I also wanted to correct the record of something that the Alchemist folks mentioned. They mentioned that they have just learned of this bill and haven't been involved in the process. But I actually sent the draft bill to Representative Stevens, who then sent it to the Alchemist folks, who then Rep. Stevens sent me their comments. The Alchemist was invited to testify in the Senate and they didn't show up, so they submitted written comments after the fact. So I just walked away this morning a little frustrated from what we had heard and just a behavior in the room as well.
When was that email sent again? The first one you're referring to, that was back
That was back in February.
February?
Yeah, so they have very much known about all of
okay.
this. Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of work has been put in here. I would like to concur with the Senate, but very much open to the people's thoughts.
Yeah, no, we've taken a lot of testimony on this over the years. You know, there's a lot of industry folks and industry associations that weighed in on it, both favorable and unfavorable, right? Like we did a lot of process and work on this since the beginning of the year to build this bill. So good job. Alcohol policy is always complex. Rep. Coffin.
Yeah, I just wanted one thing cleared up, possible if council could do this. Because we kept hearing from the witnesses, they could serve pints at these tastings, you know, drawing a blank on the name of it now, for when they have the
Offsite.
Yeah, the upside, the tasting rooms. And this, where they have the tasting rooms, and they could, okay, so they were saying they could serve pints, but it says aggregate amount of 16 ounces. So is that, would that mean they're serving one pint to somebody, or is it they're, when they have little sample drinks, is it, and when you get a flight, is it a total of the 16 ounces? How does that work out?
Margaret is cumulative, so it could be several, then down to 16 or 12.
Right. Okay, so they wouldn't just be serving pints of different, one pint of this, one pint of that, one pint of,
That's total.
okay.
Aggregate cumulative.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure based on the testimony we were receiving. Aggregate amount.
Per customer.
Okay. So I just wanted to clear that up. That was all.
Rep Waters Evans.
What's happening next with this? Are we like straw poll on this today, or do we need to hear from more people, or what's our next move?
I mean, I personally feel like we've done like exhaustive testimony on this. We need to have those folks come in today since they missed stops on the train earlier. But
That was nice of you.
Jen and I have known each other for a long time. So I would love to see this finish its name.
Sorry, I just could have waited till you're done.
No, that's pretty much it. Like you actually just like mitigated the blathering.
I guess. It still definitely brought up some more questions for me that I'm curious about. And I'm trying to figure out a way to ask this and to clarify it, but I guess. Like, who's winning and who's losing in this proposal compared to now, or what's changing for who? That's my concern. I don't feel like I have a great understanding of what this would do to our not folks.
I think if I may,
Please.
when I think back to the testimony that we heard while working on the bill, a lot of this really supports our smaller producers, especially our breweries with the self-distribution. And then the bill really touches on so many different sectors, and it's yeah, and it's very much our small producers. And very much so the Senate made tweaks too.
Rep this on.
I'd just like to concur with what Lisa said. I mean, I'm new and this is my second half of my first biennium, but of all the testimony we've taken all year long, I felt this one this morning was a little aggressive. Like a little more of like a lecture to us than a commentary about what she was trying to advocate for, I guess. It's like but just that comment alone.
It was aggressive.
Yeah, and I'm just trying that the email I received in February was similar and not.
Its tone.
Mm-hmm.
Rep Waters Evans.
I think we have done, and Rep Boyden has done, and the chair have done a lot of good work on this, and I think that my inclination is to trust your recommendations and your expertise, and I'm fine to vote on this whenever, if we're comfortable with the Senate changes and everyone's reached an agreement on it. I would feel fine about concurring and going ahead with what we need to do next on this.
I'm in the same vein. Rep Morgan.
Yeah, I'm ready on it, and I think the commissioner's got an open book, honest, broker at the table with this on what her ideas on all of it are, and we saw a little bit of that disparage, so I was at this morning, but I think we know where we are.
there's one thing we know for certain, there's strong opinions in and around Title VII on all fronts. Yes. All right. Any other commentary? Nope. So, I guess what I will do now is I will call for favorable thumbs to concur with the Senate proposal of amendment on H 921, our miscellaneous alcohol bill. Favorable thumbs. That is a 902. Thank you, committee. And until the arrival of Senator Vichowski, that concludes the orders of the day down here. Well, that's a good one. And that was a lot that we just jammed into just north of an hour and 45 minutes. Well done. So with that, Nick, on hold till we get